Hello again, I am Jim Bob. Welcome back to American Midwest. We are here up at the dairy farm so we can tidy up after our cows, and also our silage has finished fermenting so we can actually feed some of that directly to the cows and boost their productivity a nice little bit. And then after that, the kind of job for today, or jobs for today, is to weed out our crops, apply an extra stage of fertilisation to them, and then start prepping our remaining two fields and getting those into a nice start, a nice state. Get the radishes planted and get them started on their cycle. So plenty of stuff to get done, and then if we have any time left over, we'll start transferring some silage into our silo. But I want to get all this grass mess cleared up first before we do anything else. Cows are currently running at around about 30% productivity because of all this mess, so they need to get this tidied up nice and quickly. There we go, that'll do it. And there you can see I've already opened up the silo, or the bunker here. So let's scoop up a load of silage. 4,000 litres. Don't realize we could hold quite that much. And we're going to add this to our food trough. There we go. We'll add a few more scoops of that. I don't want to go overboard because we are a day or two away from getting straw. So if I fill the trough all the way up, then it just means we're going to have to wait that little bit longer to run the trough down again so that we can put our TMR in there. Let's see. How are we looking? It still doesn't say. Although, having said that, we do need to kind of speed time up a little bit. But, to get a real kind of change, I think. But what I do want to do is... Why am I... Oh, this... I was wondering I wasn't picking anything up. It's because I hadn't lowered it back down to an operating position again. It was still in dump mode. One thing I do want to do is just dump a little bit more until the colour on the trough starts to change. It's currently very, very green. It should start to go a little bit browner as we add some more of this in. I mean, what's our capacity at the moment? 35,000. And we've added, what, 12,000-ish of silage? So we probably need to go another 10,000. Another 3 buckets, I think, should do it. Yeah, maybe just the 2. See the back wheels just lifting ever so slightly when I come off that that ramp there. Not surprising, given the weight. So let's probably make this just the last scoop, I think. There we go. As the colour changed. Looks a little bit browner than it did before, I think. It may just be my mind playing tricks on me. I do think it looks a little bit... I'm going to go one more scoop just to be on the safe side. But that'll easily give us more than enough food now for a while. You can see we're actually at $12,500 as well. We were at, what, $4,500 in debt yesterday. So that means we're making, let's see, 12 and a half, 13, 17. We're making $17,000 in profit over our daily expenses at the moment, thanks to these cows. That should go up now. Our productivity should increase. We're currently our productivity is at 0 because the map's just loaded in. But once time accelerates enough, in fact, we'll do that very quickly now. Let's just whack time up to 120 for a few seconds. That should do it. Nope, not yet. Okay. Hopefully that productivity will go from around 62, 63% up to around about 80% or so. Maybe even higher than that. We'll have to see. But there should definitely be an increase. So we've fed silage to our cows. We've cleaned up after them. Our pigs are being cleaned up after automatically, thanks to the Lely Juno. We've got nothing else to do up here just yet, so we'll park this back up. There we go. We're going to jump back in the truck. We're going to head back down to the main farm and get started with some weeding. Okay, so we are back at the main farm here. Let's jump into our Optum. And we need to go and change the wheel configuration on this. We need to obviously put care wheels on. So let's drive over to our workshop. And customize. We want the narrow twins. Oh, I just noticed I got charged $1,000 for making that change. That's annoying. I know this is the, like, for some reason this is the sell point on the map. Not sure why it's here and not at the store. But it's functioning like a store sell point in the sense that it's charging us $1,000 for modifications as well. Hadn't noticed that, hadn't picked up on that, so maybe I think what I'll do, just to get around that, is I'm going to put in a toolbox. So let's go to placeables. Oh, the toolbox is not installed. That's because I was going to do multiplayer with a friend, you know, on as often as possible on this map, and the toolbox doesn't work in multiplayer, so I just didn't bother adding it to the list. All right, never mind. We just have to pay $1,000 each time for those modifications. Just have to be very careful about how often I make modifications. So let's go grab the weeder. You see it's over here behind our silos. So glad that the capacity on those has been increased up to 800,000 litres now. That's what it should have been at the start. It was obviously just a little coding error that is the reason why they weren't upgraded. But this field here, field 24, has 2 stages of growth. 2 stages of fertilisation already, and field 23 behind it, or behind us, just over there, that has 2 stages as well. Field 22, which is our cornfield, only has the 1 stage so far, so that's going to be need to be weeded twice. These will need to be weeded just the once to get them fully fertilised. And what I've been doing is I've been trying to simulate a longer cycle in terms of our crops. So I have crop growth set at slow, but on top of that, what I'm also doing is I'm growing things 1 stage and then turning it off for the day. So this should be easy enough to keep in a straight line. We have those row markings there. Of course, it would help if I was covering the whole field. Let's go back, make sure I'm picking up the edge. You can see the supposed damage I've done to the field with our seeder. Actually, one thing I did want to check was whether that's stopping me from fertilising. I think it might have done when I was on Mustang Valley. I noticed this pattern appearing. That was the first time I noticed it. So let me just pause for a second and check the mini-map. And let's check out our fertilising status. Yeah, you see, look, it is. It's damaging our crop, stopping us from fertilising it beyond stage, the stage that it's at. So that seeder, we can't use that seeder anymore. That, or when we do beets, we're going to have to we're going to have to maybe do something a little bit different. Maybe fertilise the field as much as possible before we do any planting. I don't know if it's going to be possible to do 3 stages. I suppose I could fertilise after a harvest. Then I could plough the fields. No, I'm only going to be. I don't have a plough. I've got the culti plough, so I could cultivate the field. That would be a second stage after the cultivation, and then from there, let's see. From there, what would I have to do? Plant and then fertilise. But again, I'm going to have the same problem. Well, at least with the seeder that I've currently got, you can see where it's damaged the ground. You can see these tracks. So once I complete this pass, I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to check the minimap and see if that fertilisation damage continues down the field. So completing this row here will give me a really good indicator if that's the case. And if it is the case, then we're going to need another seeder for beets. We're going to need something that isn't going to do this kind of damage, because we're not going to be able to fully fertilise a field before planting. Now, if we had a seeder that used solid state fertilisers as part of it when it was seeding, then obviously that would get us to stage 3 by the time we planted. However, I don't want to use solid fertilisers or even sprayed fertilisers on this playthrough. So yeah, dilemmas. And yeah, look, you can see, I mean, those were those little gaps that we had. I remember those, but you can see everywhere else where we've damaged the field in such a way that we can't fertilise it anymore. Or at least not with a weeder. This is going to cause me a bit of head scratching here to figure out how I can avoid this without having to buy another seeder. And even buying another seeder may potentially cause the same issues. So yeah, I'm going to have a pretty strong think about this while I am working away today, and buying a smaller seeder specifically just for beets may be the way that we go. Making pretty decent progress on this field. Just disappointed that we are losing, fertilisation with every pass. I mean, if I take another pause and show you, you can see the effect that seeder has had on our field there. We're just losing so much of our crop, that could be stage 3 and won't be. It's just, it's a tragedy. It's maybe a little bit melodramatic, but yeah, it's definitely an issue. It's definitely a problem. I'm going to have to look at pricing once I've finished recording, maybe, or maybe just once I finish weeding, start exploring other options for seeders. Find something a little bit smaller that's not going to break the bank, but is going to get us a decent job. I could possibly go with the Coom one. That's got a 5.5 meter working radius, I think. So it's not too small. And we're not going to do beets that often, so it's not a majorly pressing concern at this stage. It's going to be a while before we plant beets again. The sheer number of beets we're going to get off this field is going to be way more than we need for our pigs. I'm going to have to put some kind of storage in place somewhere up on the animal farm. So we've got beets handily up there. I mean, we've already got the other silos, which are there for our grain, which we'll be storing pig food, etc. in. So, yeah, definitely need to do some kind of storage for the beets up there as well. Something small, nothing massive. Probably just a small little area that we can just dump them on the ground. It will probably be all we'll need. But to go on to my earlier point, which I started to make and then realised that I wasn't getting proper fertilisation on the fields, the growth cycle I'm currently running on the farm is to try and simulate a longer period between harvests. One of the problems that we had with American Outback, especially towards the end of that run, was it was a harvest every third episode or so, where we'd have an episode where we plant, an episode where they're fertilised up to stage 3, and then an episode when we're harvesting, and then next episode we're back to planting, and so on and so forth. And occasionally there'd be something else thrown in there to mix things up a little bit, like some silage or doing some animal work, but it was essentially just the same 3 episodes starting to repeat, and that's a problem, and I didn't want to have that kind of experience, which is why we're mixing things up a little bit here on this farm. So we're staggering our fields so that we're not working the same fields every single time. We've got different fields to work with each cycle that we're working on. Plus, by keeping the plant growth at slow, it takes longer. I can afford to leave the game running and not worry about crops growing too quickly, and then when they do grow a stage, I turn plant growth off. Same as when I'm planting or when I'm getting ready to plant, I have plant growth turned off so that I don't start getting stuff growing in at the same time at different stages. Like we saw on this field when we planted the radish, we saw part of the field was growing in radish while the rest was still being planted on that field there. So that's obviously a bit of an issue as well. So to try and make sure that everything grows at a uniform rate and a uniform speed, I decided that it would be better to just kind of do one stage of growth per day. So earlier this morning these crops hit their stage 1 growth, so I have now turned off plant growth, and it won't be turned back on again until this episode has been completed and this day is finished. And then overnight they'll grow to the next stage, and then we can come back and they'll be, on the following game day, they'll be one stage closer to being ready to harvest, and keep doing it like that. So it breaks up that cycle of having a harvest every couple of episodes, or at least harvesting the same fields over and over again every couple of episodes. By staggering our crops, we'll always have something that we can work on. So we might be harvesting on these fields, and then the next episode we might be, or within a couple of episodes, we might be harvesting on another field. But it will always be a staggering of ground to work. It won't just be the same fields over and over and over again. So it's to try and make things a little bit easier in some respects when it comes to working. We don't have to work a large number of fields all at the same time, but it's also to make things, I think, just a little bit more realistic, in the sense that crops don't just grow overnight. You can't just go from one episode of being planted to the next episode. They're several stages into growth and fully fertilized, and in the next episode they're all harvested. It's a little excessive, I think. So it's allowing me the chance to kind of stagger that growth out a little bit. We can see the farm developing at a much slower rate, but a more realistic rate, I think. So we're going to run it like this for a while, and obviously if it becomes too slow, then we can perhaps look at maybe speeding things up again. But I'm liking the idea of just a single stage per day at the moment. So let me know your thoughts on it in the comments, and if you like the idea, then let me know. If you don't, again, let me know in the comments. And If you have an overwhelmingly positive reaction, then we'll stick with it. And if you have an overwhelmingly negative reaction to it, then we can perhaps look at shaking things up a little bit. But for now, I'd like to try and continue this experiment of running just one stage of growth per day and see how we get on. So, got more weeding to get on with. I'm going to carry on doing that. And once again, I will check in with you in just a little while. This field has definitely been taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. But it's a pretty big field. I mean, you can see how much we've covered there. And that's how much we've got left. And then after this we have our cornfield to do as well, field 22. That's going to be much easier to do because it's a row crop, so as with our sugar beets, it will be much easier to keep a straight line in cab. It's kind of tough to do it on grain crops like this in cab. You don't really have very clear markings to follow. You can kind of do it, but you are susceptible to drifting a little bit here and there. So I've been trying to avoid having to touch up this field by just staying out of cab on this one. And it's taken me quite a long time, as you can see, to get to this point. We're about 2/3 of the way through this field. Once it's done, we'll fold it the weeder up and we'll head over the railway gap and go start on field 22. And this field is finally coming to a conclusion. Just this last little bit to go. It's taken a good long time to get this bit done here. More time than I thought it would do. But I am continuing to work this field and work this farm manually. I haven't once hired a worker so far. And I feel kind of proud of myself for that. So normally, especially when it comes to weeding, I just hire a worker and sit back and just let him do his thing. But this time, I've done absolutely everything on the farm so far. So all of our mowing and collecting, that had to be done manually. There was no choice in the matter on that one because the fields were not actually fields. They're just paddocks with no pre-marked field in there. But these fields, very square, very kind of laid out in a way that could be beneficial for AI, but I've done everything myself. And as I say, I do feel kind of proud of that. You know, we've put in about 23, 24 hours on this farm so far, and it's all been done manually. So yeah, kind of proud of that little achievement there. And I'm going to cut through just here instead of going all the way along to the end. Let's unfold. Now this cornfield needs 2 stages to be added through weeding. Let's get that first bit lined up properly. There we go. And you can see this is much easier to actually see whether we're driving in a straight line or not. We can actually see the lines in the ground. We have the crops themselves as a guide as well. So no issues making sure we're not wandering or drifting on this one. I'm going to carry on doing our weeding over here. And then once this is done, we will start cultivating fields 10 and 12. And then once they're cultivated, we'll go ahead and plant some oilseed radish on those and start their cycle. And as we reach the end of this field, just got one more stage of fertilization that needs to be applied. So we'll have to wait for it to grow through another cycle. So tomorrow we'll be able to finish this field off and get this up to stage 3. But for now, it's done. And let's just take a quick overview on our map. So you can see field 23 is looking pretty good. I mean, these are spots that I made errors when I was doing my seeding. So we didn't get completely amazing coverage with our oilseed radish. That's why we have those spots there. But these lines here on field 24, this is the damage that our seeder caused to the field. And that's a big problem. Going forward, we can't do that again. I mean, you look at all of that there, that adds up to nearly half the field that's only at stage 2 when it should be at stage 3. That's quite a big drop. You know, half the field that's losing 30% of its yield. That's not good. So definitely going to have to watch out for that in the future. And this is what field 22 is now looking like. Over here we can see fields 10 and 12 completely empty at the moment, nothing on them, but 10 does have that extra stage of fertilisation. Always a bonus. So it's time for us to put this away, get everything cleaned up, and then we'll go grab our cultivator and we'll clean fields 10 and 12, get them all squared away, and then we'll start planting crops on those. Need to kind of figure out exactly which crops I'm going to go with. I think, if we remember rightly, I said we were going to do canola on field 10. So I just need to think of something for field 12. I think we were toying with the idea of soybeans, but I might go with canola again and just do a double canola on that particular set of fields there. That might be the best way to go, because we're going to have a lot of corn and we're going to have a lot of wheat. So perhaps we should increase the amount of canola that we have as well. Yeah, I think we'll do that. I think we'll go with double canola. That seems to be the best option, I think. So that's our weeder nice and clean. Let's go put this away. Just checking our fuel levels, seeing as we're driving past the fuel dump. That was still pretty good. No need to refuel this tractor just yet. We are going to put it back away. We're not going to change the wheel configuration because we're obviously going to need to do some more weeding tomorrow on that cornfield. There we go. Let's jump into the Challenger. Let's go grab our cultivator and make our way over to field 10. Now, access to this field, I think, is off the main road. Let's just take a quick look at the mini-map. Yeah, it's kind of between the shop and the bakery, I think. I think that's where access is. Or it might be actually... No, if I remember rightly, I think access might be by the chickens. A little bit further along, so... We're going to obviously need to hit the highway. So, put the beacons on. Obviously transporting this on a road. Want that hazard perception. And we'll wait for the traffic. There we go. So off the field 10 we go. So just gone past the store, there's the bakery. There's the spinnery. And here is our access slip next to the chickens. It's really quite tight on this field up against the edge of the field. I might actually have to roll this back just an extra layer or so. You can see how close we are against those bushes. So I may possibly take a line or so off. I'm kind of reluctant to do that, seeing as I can't put it back on the other end. or extend these headlands out a little bit, thanks to the problem that we're having on this map. Just make sure we're lined up pretty nicely there. That's pretty good. Okay, so time to jump in cab and do some cultivating. I do actually really enjoy my time in this tractor. I said before, I think it was in episode 2, wasn't it, when we did cultivating on our other fields, how much I enjoyed just going up and down the field in this thing. And it's just a really nice tractor to drive. So much visibility as well. I mean, look how little there is in the way of support beam obstruction. It's just such a wonderful field of view in here. Really nicely laid out cabin as well. It's just a shame that the monitors don't work, you know, with exterior cameras or, you know, any kind of animation, that they're just flat objects effectively. But the controls are really nicely laid out in here. We've got Giants FM on the radio there. But yeah, I really do like this tractor. It's a lot of fun to drive in. So we got some news yesterday that is a little sad. Unfortunately, it's going to be quite some time before we get the West Coast to come to consoles. The map itself is obviously was in stages of being fixed, with the final bugs kind of being dealt with. That was already going to be a time-consuming process, and we were looking at weeks rather than days before we were going to get that map. But sadly, Bill's father suffered a heart attack. He has survived, and so that is good news in that respect. And as a result, Bill is suspending work not just on that map, but on all modding, until he is in a position where he can obviously help nurse his father back to full health. That's much more important than creating a map for a video game. So completely understand his decision to do that, you know, and rightly so. You know, as I say, family is much more important than a video game. So if you are sort of waiting patiently for the West Coast, it is going to be quite some time, and I would ask that if you do want to message Bill with, you know, words of support and passing on your thoughts to him and his father, you know, by all means feel free to do that, but please do not hassle him about the map. Do not ask him for any kind of idea when things might get started up again. You know, as I say, he is going to be taking care of his father and helping get him back up to full health. So please allow him time to deal with that, and as and when he's in a position to start working on mods again, he will let us know. We don't have to go asking for it. He will let us know. We are close to the end of this field. Not a lot left now, just this one final strip, and then beyond that we've got field 12 there, the other side of the road. You can just make it out. We've got that to be cultivated, and then we have the seeding to do as well, and that will be the final act of this particular day. So as you can see, it's just ticked past 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Still a good couple of hours of daylight left. By the time we get all of our cultivating done, it's going to be pushing on, I think, to about 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock in the evening. And from there, you know, it'll be seeding until we're done. So another long day for our farmer, but hey, aren't they all? But with the delay to the West Coast, that obviously does mean that it's going to cause delays to the resurrection of Massey Manor and Fent Farm as well. As a result, I don't think we'll be doing those two series on the West Coast. I think what we'll do, because I would imagine we're probably looking at a New Year release for West Coast now. I would imagine the best thing to do to bring those series back would be to do them on the Black Sheep modding map that's coming up, and that is the Valley, the Old Farm. It's another big map, 93 fields on that map. It's in testing, in their testing at the moment before it gets submitted to Giants. It's currently, I think according to their website, it's around about 65% done in their own testing. So that's pretty good in terms of timescale. It's only been a few days since they actually officially started their testing, which means we could well see that, assuming it goes well through Giants testing, we could well see that in a couple of weeks, maybe. So it's looking like that's going to be the new home for both Massey Manor and Fent Farm. We'll see what happens with those. We will definitely do something on the West Coast when it comes out, but as I say, it's going to be a long time now before we see that map, and I would hazard a guess that we're probably looking at some time towards the end of this year, maybe in the beginning of the new year, before we do see it. Right, so where do I get in on this farm, this field? I think it might be down here. Where is our access? I can't remember. I think it's down here. Yeah, here it is, look. Here's our entry point. So let's get the cultivator unfolded. There we go. Let's get lined up on the field. That's looking pretty good. And off we go on field 12. Well, it looks like my guesstimate on the time wasn't too far off. I mean, it's creeping up on 5:15. I said we were talking 5:30, 6 to get this done. This field didn't actually take as long as I thought it would. It is, I think, the smallest of all our fields. And I think it's kind of almost poetic, in a way, that the field that we are given as our starting field is the last field that we work. Yeah, we worked all of our additional fields first before we came to this one. But having said that, Shoot does have this habit of putting starting fields quite far away from the farm. Well, I say this habit, it's not that bad a habit. It wasn't a habit really with Golden Days, and it wasn't with Mustang Valley. With Mustang Valley, there aren't any fields. So it's a little bit different, but it's very much like on American Outback, where we get one small square field, and it's quite a trek from the farm. So we've got a long drive to get back. And you know what? I'm actually going to stop in here, just pick up the eggs. I don't know why I'm bothering to do this, because the eggs are worth absolutely nothing. But why not? Might as well. We're here. Let's just grab some eggs. Whiz around in here. Hear that bucking of our chickens. Wrong time of day there, Mr. Rooster. Alright, there we go. That's our eggs collected. I don't know why I did that. Just for some reason I just had this hankering for collecting eggs. So, pull back onto the road. And off we go to the farm. I think what I might do is... Well, I was going to use this to do the planting as well, but it does not like that YP2425A. It really doesn't. So maybe we'll use the quad track. Yeah, I guess we'll use the quad track. That is kind of our planting tractor. I may... This is something actually, we haven't actually considered this yet. I think I've still got quite a lot of seed in our current seeder. And what I could do is I could sell the seeder that we have right now, replace it with the Lemken seeder, which is a bit smaller, a bit easier to manage, and then use some of that leftover money, plus if we've got enough in our loan, whatever we've got left in that, and perhaps buy a smaller seeder just for other stuff. Although, having said that, it's not that often we're going to be planting beets. We're going to be planting corn and sunflowers a lot more regularly. Yeah, that would probably be a bad idea. So we should probably keep the YP2425A. We'll just have to be very careful on it with certain fields. Let's give our cultivator a nice good clean here. And our Challenger as well, that's going back in the shed. It really is an awesome little tractor. Well, I say little, it's actually quite a big tractor, but I do love this Challenger. There we go, everything seems to be clean. Let's put the hose back away. I could have used the Culti plough, but given that the fields are already completely ploughed, there was no real point in just taking a job that would have taken as long as it did and doubling that time with an 8 metre working width instead of a 14.5 metre working width. We didn't need the plough bonus. There we go. So we're heading back over to the shed. Let's get it squared up. Engine off and into the quad track. So let's grab our seeder. I wonder how much seed I do actually have left in this thing. Yeah, nearly full. Let's change the crop now before I forget, because I will. There we go, radish. And once again, we are going to be on the road, so let's get the beacons on, and I will see you on the field. Of course, as I pull on here and drive past the chickens, I realise I could have grabbed grabbed the eggs at this point, as opposed to pulling over on the middle of the trip back to the farm, but never mind. So to make things a little bit easier in terms of getting out, I'm going to start at the far end of the field this time. You can see we've got really big headlands. As we open up our seeder. Get lined up. Get positioned. That looks pretty good. Let's extend the arm, lower, turn on, and off we go. Okay, should probably have started at the other side of the field. Working at the top end has certainly made it easier, but we're driving away from the exit now, which means I've got to drive past all these trees on that very thin strip of land to get back there again. I think so. Next time out, we'll start in that corner up there, or at least when it comes to our seeding anyway. Having a different working width for things like the cultivator and obviously our weeder as well may change where we actually finish up, but in terms of seeding, at least we know where we need to start from next time. Before we head over to field 12, I've just realised that we never actually checked to see what the productivity of our cows was like now that we fed them silage. Let's take a quick look. We're still at 63%. I'm disappointed by that. I thought that would have gone up, but our food trough is now kind of in line with our grass feed, our water, and our cleanliness. Well, our cleanliness is not a good thing. That's obviously got to be improved. So it looks like maybe it has added a little bit, perhaps, but only a couple of percent, if that. That's slightly disappointing. Just kind of hoping that silage would add more in terms of boosting the productivity. But I suppose that's good to know in a way, that we don't have to worry about feeding them hay and silage while we're waiting for TMR. Just one of the two will do. Maybe they need to eat through the remaining hay first before they'll get to the silage. That might be something. Maybe that'll change the rating then. We'll pay closer attention to that as we get closer towards the hay running out. Well, we have one final field left to seed, and it's now approaching 7:30. So we're looking at, I would think, 8ish, 8:15 for this to be finished. We'll see what time it is when we get done. But this is the final thing that we have left to do today, is tidy up this field here, get this radish into the ground, and then we can turn plant growth on overnight, and come the morning we'll be ready to cultivate these radishes into the ground, plant them again, but this time with canola, and also put that final stage of fertilisation on field 22. As we make the turn. Get lined up. Drop down, extend the arm out, and off we go again. It just so happens that we are fitting on this field absolutely perfectly. Look at this. How's that for lining everything up? Absolutely spot on there. Kind of got a little bit lucky, I think, with a slight overlap. If that had been any bigger at the start, we would have had this tiny thin little strip that we would have to go back and deal with. But as it is, we don't. Oh, no, wait, we do. Oops. Thought I'd got away with that. Just obviously drifted just a little bit too much. Yeah, you can see how much this thing struggles. The wheels keep rubbing, causing that slowdown there. We do have a little thin strip, but it's only this last little section here. The rest of it's all looking okay. So we'll just quickly tag that, because it will drive me crazy if I don't. We've got another thin strip. Yeah, we may as well just do the whole line. Thought we got away with it. Apparently not. But that's pretty much it. We're done. It's what, 8:20. You know, that's about where I thought we'd be when we were done. So another long day for our farmer, as we said earlier, aren't they all? They're always long days. But we've achieved a lot. You know, we've fed some silage to our cows, cleaned up after them a little bit, and now we have fertilised our fields. We've also cultivated and seeded another 2, so we've worked on 5 fields, 2 of which we've worked on twice. So we've achieved an awful lot today. I feel quite proud of the amount of stuff that we've done. So I'm going to take this back to the yard, I'm going to get everything cleaned off, and then Farmer's going to go and put his feet up in front of the TV and chill out for the rest of the evening. So thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I will catch you back on American Midwest very soon.